Hello, everyone. I hope that everyone's doing great. I hope that you all enjoyed your spring break after like that hectic time that we had with school and like not knowing how to turn in or not being able to. I know that that was very stressful for me. So I enjoyed my spring break, and I know it's been quite a while since spring break, but I really miss it. I wish we had 2 weeks, but we can't do anything about it. What I've currently been doing again is just focusing on school and work. Um, and right now I'm very excited just because graduation is around the corner, and that means that like I'm starting to prepare and just like a little bit nervous. It's like this like weird feeling. I really don't know how to explain it, but I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I hope that you all are doing great. So for this module, I'll be going over Luciano Berio. So he's an Italian composer, and he was born in Oneglia in 1922. So he was born into a family of musicians. Since a very young age, he got a musical education at home, and this was due because his father and grandfather were both organists and composers. So you can already tell, like since the beginning, he already knew what he was doing, and it's you can tell because when he was 9, he was a pianist um, at his father's chamber music. So he would do this like in the evenings, um, and during the like occasionally like during this age he would also compose. Uh, but it was very random, nothing like too serious, and not really like something to consider a profession at such a young age. But um, later in life, he did injured his right hand. So this was a very life-changing event just because this meant that his music as a piano player wouldn't be able to be the same because I'm really unaware of like how it works, but I really guess that like your wrist is like very important, right? To play the piano. So you can already tell how much that affected him. But um, this led him to want to learn, well, to continue learning and understand composition, master it and become like a pro at it. So that's what he did. He focused on that. And so what he did was that he went to Milan, and he already had a great understanding of music again, and he improved even more because he was under such great orchestrators. So he was under Mahler, Babel, and Stravinsky. So great people to just be surrounded with. And I think like obviously he had a lot to bring to the table. But just being surrounded by those great people just allowed him to explore and become even more of a master in what he does. So right away, people realized that he had a talent and a high level of understanding music that not everyone could reach or like easily reach. That really set him apart. And so I'll just go over a little bit of his work and his technique, and like what he is known for. So they're kind of layered music, and he really works with the idea of foreground and background, and how these two, these distances or like spaces are interchangeable, and how we can use that. And we've seen it in others composers as well. But one of the things that kind of like set him aside was the fact that he would also experiment with the placement of players, even though he used a traditional platform. So what this meant was that he would use everything would be traditional, but each piece would change just because he would change, let's say, the player of who was playing the violin or something else, right? So like that already changed the whole like the echo and like the whole ecosystem of the music. So you can already tell like how he's playing it. Um, uh, so again, the acoustics of the stage, and he played a lot with electric sounds. So this is something that's definitely present in his music, and you can see it. And I'll talk a little bit more when I go over the piece that I decided to examine by him. But basically, electric sounds. But also, he went ahead and started exploring people, and not in the sense of like singers, right? but in the sense of like just spoken language, um, and vocal writing. And he's very known for his complex lyrical pieces. Like that's something that he really nailed, and you know that's kind of like his thing. And just making a mixture, and you can imagine how his music sounds like mixing everything, and it's quite interesting to learn about just because he's quite classical in the sense where he does keep like the traditional like layout or the usage, but he does introduce his new ideas, which really revolutionized the way music was seen and heard, especially in his time. So the piece that I'll be going over is called Guesty by, and it was composed by him in 1966. So I will just start by saying that this piece is very interesting, in the sense that like the development starts at one place and then it kind of like ends like in a very different place. You really don't know what's going on at the beginning. It's very random. Um, um, the beat, it starts really fast and then it feels like distorted. And I feel like the way I can explain it, it's kind of like that electronic music we see today. Even though like electronic music today has a little bit more structure, it you can tell that it's electronic for its time, and it's just like going back and forth. I really don't know. And one thing that I noticed while watching the video was that it had little notes, and it said that it was a person talking and hand. So it was mouth and hands. So you can already tell how he's like messing with like sounds, not only. And they're, like I said, they're not clear, but it's mouth and fingers, which there's an echo. They're like introduced through echoes, and like you can just create a sense of space. Like you can create that background. Like you can kind of like recognize it. Um, and yes, the crescendos, the way I would explain it, is kind of like a build up, like the like kind of like the build ups we know now from electronic music, but just like more abstract, I guess, and more classical. It's really weird to explain, but it's just like an electronic classical build up, if that makes any sense. But very interesting. And there's a lot of variety throughout the piece. Like you hear like the voice of this lady, and again, this is not the original piece. It was performed by someone else, but is just following the notes. So I really encourage you to give it like just watch it. I think it's very interesting. It has a very dark kind of sense to it and a dark emotion and space, but it's really really interesting. Again, there's a combination between like soft piano tones, and then you have like this forte, very loud sound. So again, and one thing that I found interesting was the fact that the voice creates the beat. It's not really a noticeable beat, but or I would rather say the tempo, right? But you can it's created by the voice, and it's very interesting. And overall, it just feels very artistic and it's very abstract. And if I'm being completely honest, I feel like it may be even harder to compose such a piece like this, just because everything feels intentional, but it just sounds so out of like, it's weird that it sounds out of place and like coming just at you, like you don't know what to expect. So there's always that ambiguity that with his music. Um, Now, like I said, it has a different beginning and a different end. So the beginning, we have this random like voices and screams. It's just weird, but very interesting. But as you move along, it becomes more structured. It kind of sounds like a flute, and it's just more classical. So you kind of have like this gradient, right? Like it's changing from like aesthetics and sounds. And you can now hear more of like a single voice and a more cohesive sound. Um, and one like a few things that I just noticed was the like there was a strong vibrato in the song, in the sounds. There wasn't like usually like the build-ups are like very like smooth. No, this one was kind of like very rough, like going up. So yes, and like I said, towards the end it's just more traditional and more instrumental rather than expressive and abstract. and there's a lot of echo sounds. So this is the piece that I really encourage you all to go watch. Again, it's very interesting, and it's just like there's no video, unfortunately, but it's really interesting. Like I feel like this could be part of a movie, if I'm being completely honest. So I really enjoy this. So my opinions on the work and stuff like that. So again, super unique work. Constantly, I feel like people are constantly pushing the boundaries of what like makes classical music, like what makes classical music classical. And it's just very interesting to see how like it just keeps, and everyone has their own interpretation, either like by introducing tango or something like that, but now electronic into classical music is just very interesting. And human sounds, like who would have thought, like, to be completely honest, I didn't expect to learn or hear this type of music when I got into this class. So I'm very excited. Like it just like you don't know what to expect. Like you would just expect like everything to be structured and just like violins and saxophones, or like you call it. But I think it's interesting that there's a lot of people that have pushed such a classical thing, and just make you know their own movement through music in a sense. So it just and this composer reminds me in his own way, right? But it just reminds me of like people just trying to evolve in music and just make it their own and their own interpretation. And I would like to finish by saying that like now I am wondering how like what the next step is. Like, are we in the obviously we're in the next step of like classical music, um, but I'm really excited to see like what's gonna be the next one. Like if we already had people like with no like brain waves and stuff like that, or like making sounds and like classical music with like a mouth and a finger. So what's next? Like making music with your phone. I really don't know. I'm just I'm very curious and eager to find out. But I guess we'll see after a few years goes by so that we can analyze it. Um, but yes, so that's a little bit about the composer Luciano Verio. And with that, I would like to say that I hope that you enjoyed my video, and I hope that you're all staying safe. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.